I was at a quiet coffee shop last Tuesday when I overheard a woman at the next table auditioning her dating app matches for her friend. She wasn't really looking at their smiles or their hobbies. She was zoomed in on their ClearCoding badges, those little digital tags for political leanings and social stances. She called it a vibe check, but the way she dissected them felt more like a clinical autopsy. She eventually landed on a profile that seemed perfect. The guy checked every single one of her ideological boxes, a total green flag by every modern standard. Her friend leaned in, expecting the swipe right, but instead, the woman just sighed, a look of profound boredom washing over her face. "He's exactly what I'm supposed to want," she muttered. "So why do I feel like I'm looking at a terms of service agreement?" She swiped left without a second thought. That tiny dismissive thumb flick is the heartbeat of a massive silent shift we're seeing in 2026. We've entered the era of the marriage gap, where for the first time, it's the men, nearly 74% of high school boys, who are white-knuckling the dream of a stable union, while women are increasingly walking away from the deal. It's a world of contractual asymmetry, where the old biological bargain has been rewritten by the state, the market, and the algorithm. What struck me wasn't just her rejection of that perfect guy, but the underlying logic. It's as if the modern welfare state has provided such a reliable baseline of security that the traditional provider isn't just unnecessary, he's a low-reward risk. We're witnessing a behavioral sink where the rules of attraction have pivoted from mutual survival to a high-stakes game of gene optimization and ruthless risk management. It leaves us with a haunting question. In a world where the marriage contract has become a high-risk asset designed to incentivize its own breach, what is the survival strategy for the modern man? Okay, I have to pause right there because that number you just mentioned in the opening, 74% of high school boys want marriage.
Yeah. That just stopped me in my tracks. I mean, we spent the last, 50 years being told that men are the commitment phobes.
Right. The reluctant bachelor.
The ones who need to be dragged, kicking and screaming down the aisle. And now you're telling me that in 2026, it's the teenage boys pinning wedding inspiration to their mental vision boards while the girls are opting out.
That's what the data is showing.
It feels like a glitch in the simulation. Are we sure about that data?
It does sound like a glitch, doesn't it? I mean, it goes against every single sitcom trope from the 90s.
Every single one.
But the data is robust. That 74% figure, it comes from the latest longitudinal studies on youth aspirations in 2026. And it's compared to only 61% of girls.
Wow.
And if you dig into the qualitative side, the why, it gets even more fascinating. The boys are looking at marriage as a structure, as a way to build a legacy, a way to anchor their identity in a world that, frankly, feels increasingly hostile to them. They crave the stability.
So for the boys, it's an anchor. What is it for the girls then?
For the girls, and this is especially true in the last few years, marriage has morphed from a goal into a risk.
A risk.
Or, at best, an unnecessary accessory. And that's really what we're looking at today. It's what sociologists are calling a contractual collapse.
A contractual...
The old deal you provide, I nurture, we survive, it's just gone. And for this deep dive, we aren't just skimming headlines. We've pulled a stack that includes everything from Parental Investment Theory in evolutionary psychology journals, all the way to legal papers on relational contracts. And yes, we even waded into the deep, dark waters of the 2026 manosphere and dating blogs to see what's actually happening on the ground.
I'm glad we're looking at the manosphere stuff, even if it makes me want to scrub my search history afterwards.
I get that.
Because as much as we might want to dismiss the red pill guys as, just fringe, they are clearly tapping into a sentiment that is resonating with millions of young men.
Yeah.
You didn't get to 74% without something systemic happening.
Exactly. You can't dismiss the symptom just because you don't like the patient. And so our mission today is to figure out why the deal is breaking down. And we've broken it down into 3 specific narratives that serve as our golden thread. And that thread is risk.
Risk?
We have the state removing the risk of survival, the algorithm distorting the risk of choice, and the law amplifying the risk of commitment.
Risk. I like that framing. It's not about romance anymore. It's about risk management. Okay, so let's start with that first pillar, the death of the provider. You have a story about a guy named Elias in Oslo. Now, Oslo was basically the capital of the perfect society, right?
You'd think so. High taxes, high happiness, great sweaters.
Exactly. So what happened to Elias?
So Elias is our case study for what happens when the state becomes the perfect husband. He's a hardworking guy, late 20s, and he bought into the traditional script entirely. I mean, he spent his 20s grinding.
Doing what he was told he was supposed to do.
Exactly. Working 2 jobs, missing out on parties, skipping vacations, all to scrape together a down payment for a nice apartment in a good district. He believed, fundamentally, that his value in the dating market was his ability to provide a safe, stable fortress.
Which, to be fair, has been the winning strategy for men for about, 10,000 years?
Right. It's a strategy with a very long track record. So he meets Clara. They move in together. He's paying the bulk of the mortgage. He's doing the provider thing. They live together for 3 years. But then the dynamic starts to shift. Because in 2026 Oslo, the state provides a level of security that makes Elias's efforts.
Well, redundant.
Redundant, how so?
Clara has a state-subsidized career path. She has universal health care that covers everything, and she has guaranteed parental leave that allows her to be a mother without any real financial fear.
So Elias comes home, proud that he can put food on the table, and the government is already there, stocking the fridge.
Precisely. That's a perfect way to put it. And Clara eventually leaves him. And the crushing part for Elias wasn't that she left him for a richer man. Okay.
She left him because she was bored.
Bored.
She realized she didn't need his safety. And without that need, her desire, her whole algorithm, it just pivoted. She didn't want a provider anymore. She wanted genetic optimization.
Genetic optimization.
Excitement, intensity, physical perfection. She left Elias to pursue a string of short-term flings with men who were far less stable but far more exciting.
Genetic optimization. I mean, that sounds incredibly clinical. It sounds like she's breeding racehorses, not looking for a boyfriend.
It is clinical, but it's also biological. To understand this, we really have to unpack parental investment theory.
Okay, hold on. Parental investment theory. That sounds like something I need a graph for. Break it down for me like I'm 5 years old. Why does this explain Clara dumping a nice, stable guy?
Okay, simple terms. Imagine the biological cost of making a baby. For a man, the cost, historically speaking, is a few minutes of his time and, a teaspoon of genetic material. It's cheap.
Biologically cheap, right?
Very cheap. For a woman, the cost is 9 months of pregnancy, the physical risk of childbirth, which for most of human history was often fatal, and then years of breastfeeding and nursing. It's a massive investment.
All right, the stakes are way higher for her, low stakes for him.
Exactly. Because that investment is so massive for the female, she has evolved to be the gatekeeper. She has to be incredibly picky, and for millennia, the #1 criteria for that pickiness was, can this male keep me and the baby alive?
So can he hunt? Can he fight? Does he have a cave with a good view?
Pretty much. She needed resources, she needed protection, she needed a fortress.
Enter the welfare state.
Enter the year 2026. We have created a system of state-sponsored support that effectively socializes the male provider role. The government is the protector. The government is the resource generator. When the state provides that survival floor,
the whole calculation changes.
The female mating algorithm completely recalibrates. The need for security variable drops to 0.
And when security isn't the priority anymore, what becomes the priority?
Good genes. Since survival is guaranteed by the taxpayer, the female strategy shifts to optimizing the offspring's genetic potential. She starts looking for symmetry, charisma, height, strength, all the external markers of biological fitness.
The exciting stuff.
The exciting stuff. Or she looks for pure emotional experience. The boring, stable provider, our guy Elias, is offering a currency that is no longer legal tender.
That is.
Yeah.
That's bleak. It's like Elias is walking around with a suitcase full of Confederate money. He thinks he's rich, but nobody takes his cash anymore.
That's a perfect analogy. And this is exactly where we see the marriage gap emerge along class lines. In the data we have from Harry Benson in 2025, marriage is becoming a luxury good.
A luxury good.
Yeah. Wealthy men, guys who have so much money that they can outprovide even the state, they still get married.
Because they can offer a lifestyle the government can't.
Right.
Private jets versus a public bus pass.
Exactly. But for the working class and the middle class, the marriage gap is a chasm. If you're a regular guy making a regular salary, you cannot compete with the welfare state.
You can't outprovide the government.
You can't. So the women in that bracket, they opt out of the contract, they stay single, or they end up sharing the top tier of men, the gene optimization strategy, while the average guys are left entirely alone.
It reminds me of that line from the intro. He built a fortress for someone who already lived in a palace. Elias was just solving a problem Clara didn't have.
A completely solved problem.
But let's pivot here, because Elias was dealing with a structural obsolescence in the physical world. But most of us aren't meeting in the physical world anymore.
No.
They're meeting in the cloud. And if the state distorted the need for provision, the algorithm is distorting something else entirely. Our perception of reality. And this brings us to Maya.
Right, and Maya's story is fascinating because it shows how we've effectively engineered our own unhappiness.
So Maya is in San Francisco. She's successful, smart, beautiful. And she's on a 2026 app called ClearCode. She matches with a local architect, a real guy, decent job, nice smile. They go for coffee. It goes, fine. He's nice.
Dreaded fine.
Exactly. But she goes home, opens the app, and sees a profile of a guy 3 states away who has a 99% genetic synergy badge and looks like a movie star. She rejects the architect.
And this is the classic trap.
But here's the kicker. She doesn't actually meet the 99% guy. He doesn't reply.
No.
But just seeing his profile made the real-life architect completely invisible. She's stuck in this limbo of rejecting reality for a digital ghost.
Maya is suffering from what the research calls virtual ovulatory interference.
Okay, so virtual ovulatory interference. That sounds like a pop-up ad you'd get on a sketchy site.
Yeah.
Please tell me that's a real term.
It's a term that's emerging from the intersection of tech and biology, and it describes how digital interfaces hijack our biological signals. To get it, we have to look at evolutionary mismatch. Our brains, the hardware we are running on, evolved in the Pleistocene era. In a tribal setting, a woman like Maya might meet, hypothetically, 50 to 100 eligible men in her entire lifetime.
So if you met a guy who had all his teeth and could hunt a deer, you locked that down.
You locked it down because the sample size was small and the stakes were high, but ClearCode gives Maya access to 50 men before breakfast, and not just any men. The algorithm is curated to show her the top 0.1% first to hook her engagement.
It's the slot machine mechanic. Pull the lever, get a new face.
It is. The source from Frontiers uses this acronym, strangely weird, to describe modern populations, and they focus on the lots of options variable. When you present a primitive brain with infinite options, it triggers what's called a supernormal stimulus.
A supernormal stimulus.
Yes. It's like giving a rat pure cocaine instead of a food pellet. The brain's reward system just short circuits.
Yeah.
Maya isn't picky in a character flaw sense. Her brain has been deluded into believing that the top 0.1% of men are her standard peer group.
So the architect, who is objectively a top 10% guy, probably a great catch in the real world.
Absolutely.
He looks like trash because she's comparing him to a curated hallucination of the top 0.001%.
Precisely. And then you add ClearCoding on top of that. This is from Damona Hoffman's 2025 report on dating trends. In the past, you went on a date to find out if someone was compatible. You had to talk, smell pheromones, read body language.
You had to do the work.
You had to do the work. Now the app offers these badges.
The vibe check.
Right. Badges for political leanings, vaccination status, social causes, ClearCoding. On the surface, it looks efficient. You think, oh, good, I don't have to waste time with someone who disagrees with me. But biologically, it's a disaster.
Why? I mean, isn't it good to date someone who agrees with you? It sounds logical.
It turns dating into a purity spiral. It's no longer about compatibility, it's about conformity. It allows women to weaponize virtue signaling as a filter. If a man doesn't have the specific cultural capital, the right badges, the right vibe, he is filtered out before he even gets a chance to speak.
So it's not even about his character, it's about whether he clicked the right boxes.
Exactly, and this creates what they call sexual resource deflation for the bottom 80% of men who might be great partners, but aren't culturally fluent in the latest political trends from last week.
It's basically a class filter, isn't it? If I don't have the compost on weekends badge and the ally badge, I'm genetically unfit to reproduce.
In the eyes of the algorithm, yes. And the tragedy for Maya, and for so many others, is what Hoffman calls the satisficer versus maximizer problem.
Okay, break that down.
A satisficer finds something that meets their criteria and is happy. They find a good enough partner and they build a life. A maximizer, like Maya has become, is tormented by the idea that there might be something better one swipe away.
And the algorithm wants her to be a maximizer.
The algorithm is designed to turn us all into maximizers.
Because if Maya matches with the architect and deletes the app, ClearCode loses a customer.
Exactly. The app's goal isn't to pair you off, it's to keep you single and swiping. It's monetized loneliness.
Monetized loneliness. Wow. Okay, so we have Elias, who is replaced by the state. We have Maya, who is being deluded by the algorithm. But there's a third character in our story, and honestly, this is the one that worries me the most. Because Elias and Maya are, in a way, victims of circumstance. Marcus. Marcus is making a choice, a very hard, cynical choice.
Marcus brings us to the legal dimension, and this is where the anger lives.
Right. So Marcus is a corporate litigator in New York. high earner, sharp guy. He's looking at marriage, and he's not seeing a fairy tale. He's seeing a contract. And he thinks it's a terrible contract.
A badly written one.
He calls it a high-risk asset subject to structured expropriation.
That is lawyer speak for, I'm going to get robbed.
And it comes from a real place. He watched his dad go through a divorce in 2024. His dad built a business for 30 years. The mom filed for divorce. No abuse, no cheating, just irreconcilable differences, and boom.
Everything gone.
Half the business gone, alimony for life, retirement drained. Marcus looks at that and says, I am never signing that paper. He calls his lifestyle strategic bachelorhood.
Marcus represents the rational actor response to the current legal environment. And to get this, we have to talk about the idea of marriage as a relational contract.
Okay, break that down for me. Relational contract.
So in normal contract law, if you and I sign a deal to build a factory and I put in 90% of the money and the labor, and then you decide to quit halfway through because you're bored,
right,
there are penalties. You can't just walk away with half my factory. The law protects my investment.
Of course not. That would be insane.
But in modern marriage, specifically under no-fault divorce laws, that is exactly what happens. The law transformed marriage from a binding covenant, a permanent union, into what's called a tenancy at will.
A tenancy at will.
It can be terminated by either party at any time, for any reason, or for no reason at all. But the assets are still treated as community property.
So Marcus sees it as a trap. He's the one who is likely to earn more. That provider instinct is still there. But if the contract is broken, and statistically, women initiate somewhere between 70 and 80% of divorces.
That's right.
Then he's the one who pays the penalty for a decision he didn't even make.
Correct. He views the legal system as actively incentivizing the breach of contract. If the person who breaks the deal gets rewarded with cash and prizes, as he sees it, why wouldn't they break it?
It's hard to argue with that logic on a purely financial level, even if it feels incredibly cold.
It is cold, but it's also a rational risk assessment.
But this isn't just about one guy in New York, is it?
Right.
This is fueling a massive political shift. We're seeing young men drift hard to the right.
This is the Isaac thesis on populism from 2025. It argues that young men feel economically disposable because of automation and AI, and they feel culturally vilified by mainstream narratives about toxic masculinity.
So they feel like the world is telling them, we don't need your labor and we don't like your personality.
That's the message they're receiving. And when you tell millions of young men that they are essentially worthless or toxic, they don't just disappear, they find new leaders.
They go to the manosphere.
They do. They find influencers, the successors to the Andrew Tates of the early 2020s, who tell them, you're not crazy. The system is rigged against you. The matrix is real.
And the solution these guys offer isn't try harder to be nice.
No, not at all. The solution is sovereignty. The red pill strategy in 2026 is all about hedging risk. It's about being a sovereign man. You don't sign contracts you can't control. You don't merge assets. You maintain total legal and financial mobility.
It sounds like they're preparing for war, not for a relationship.
In a way, they are. They're told to focus on pharmacological and physical capital.
Wait, pharmacological capital? Are they talking about juicing? Steroids?
Yes. Steroids, TRT, cognitive enhancers, you name it. The logic is, if society doesn't value my loyalty or my provision, then I will force it to respect my power. It's called the winner effect. They want to look like superheroes and earn like hedge fund managers because they believe that demonstrated power is the only thing that commands respect in a world without binding contracts.
It's terrifying. It really feels like we are retreating into armed camps.
That's not a bad way to describe it.
You have the women in their safety palaces, provided by the state, swiping on their phones for genetic perfection. And you have the men in their sovereign bunkers, lifting weights and having their lawyers check prenups before a second date.
It's what sociologists call a behavioral sink.
It can behavioral sink.
It's a term that comes from these old rat experiments where when overcrowding and social breakdown occurred, the rats stopped breeding, they started attacking each other, or they just withdrew completely.
So we're seeing the human equivalent.
We're seeing herbivore men who just give up, withdraw, and play video games. We're seeing sovereign men who engage in ruthless transactional dating. And on the other side, you have independent women who are, for all intents and purposes, married to the state. There's no cooperation.
And it all connects back to risk, doesn't it? Elias took a risk on the old model and lost. Maya is paralyzed by the risk of choosing the wrong option out of infinity. And Marcus is just refusing to take the risk at all.
Exactly. The old contract, the one where we risked everything on each other because we needed each other to survive, is dead. We have systematically removed the need, and without the need, the risk feels impossible to justify for a growing number of people.
So we've engineered a society of maximum safety. We have the state to feed us, we have the app to filter us, and we have the law to let us exit at any time, for any reason. But the price of all that safety was the connection itself.
That's the paradox, isn't it? We are safer and more free than any humans in history, but we are also more isolated than ever.
So here's the thought I want to leave everyone with, and it's a bit of a heavy one. We spent this whole deep dive talking about contracts and biology and laws and algorithms, but at the end of the day, we're talking about people just trying not to be alone. If we have built a world where need is obsolete, do we even know how to want anymore? Or are we all just becoming swipe-happy consumers standing in a supermarket of human souls, terrified to actually buy anything because it might expire?
That really is the question of the decade.
Thanks for diving in with us. We'll see you next time.